Hello and welcome to another episode of Literary Gladiators, the show where we discuss and debate literature in all of its forms. If it's written work, it's game. Let's meet the panel.
I'm Ari.
Kaila. Tara.
And I'm Josh. And Ari, it's great to have you back for your 14th season in a row.
Thank you, Josh.
So,
appreciate it.
Out of the 5 longest tenured participants, 4 of them have appeared on the channel thus far. We'll be seeing Dan soon. But we have Kaila back first time since season 13, and Tara is becoming a mainstay onto the show. Tara also has a channel. It's Tara's Book Nook now.
Tara's Reading Nook.
Tara's Reading Nook. I think about a bookstore down in Sea Isle City called Book Nook.
I'll make sure to subscribe.
Yeah,
and you should subscribe too. To us and to her. Mm-hmm. And to me, if you like.
It's great to have a pre-existing booktuber joining our channel. We've had guests on our channel.
Yeah, we had Ellie from Earl Grey Books and Danielle from This Is Danielle.
Yes. We've had other participants. They did Zoom, or they did individual discussions, or we engaged in discussions with them as well. But when we get to have them in person, that's even better. But today we're going to be going over a book that Ari added to the list, and that is I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jennette McCurdy. And if you remember the Nickelodeon show iCarly, she played the role of Sam Puckett, and she also was on the spin-off Sam and Cat in the same role. And
with Ariana Grande.
Yes. Do you have a discussion starter, Ari?
Yeah, so normally I would start a discussion with a question, but I just think that the content in this is really something we need to look at a little bit closer. Jennette McCurdy, I felt every single ounce of what she was trying to portray through this entire book. And I say that in a way, pain is very easy to portray, but how you portray it and the way it goes onto the page that Jennette kind of wrote. And I was also listening to the audiobook, so I got a little bit more of the vocal nuances. But this is one of the toughest books I've ever read. However, it is one of the most important books that I've also read also. Me being a huge biography and autobiography fan, I felt that this was a book that I really wanted to look at. I didn't know a lot about iCarly prior to hearing about the book, so I kind of picked up this book more because I kind of saw some YouTube videos pop up on my feed about it, and also about Jennette McCurdy and how the book came out, I think, 2 years ago in 2022. Mm-hmm. And man, this book just pushes you to the limit. And I have to say, from what I kind of this is how I felt about the book. Jennette McCurdy might be the best actress of our time right now, because not only did she have to act when she was on iCarly and all the other shows she did, she had to put up an act to please her mom all this time. And that takes a lot out of you. And I appreciate that, Jennette McCurdy wrote about this, because this is something that, helicopter parenting and kind of control issues are stuff that's happening in parenting more and more these days. And I appreciate Jennette kind of opening that bottle and letting the feelings out on the page, where she's more comfortable rather than in the acting where she clearly wasn't as comfortable. So
she actually did. This was she wrote the book after she did a one-woman show about her whole life growing up in the industry. So
yeah,
it was kind of also.
It's the same
I
thing.
think it was the same title.
I'm Glad My Mom Died.
Yeah,
because I know she did another thing with a play of some kind, but I don't remember what it was.
But she also wanted to be a writer for.
Yes,
since
it's mentioned in the book.
And her mother brought her down for doing so because she wanted her to be an actress. And then when she did read the play, the screenplay she put together, she said, "Oh, this is just like The Parent Trap."
Right.
No encouragement at all. Just because it wasn't within her wheelhouse. I watched quite a few episodes of Drake and Josh, which was Dan Schneider's previous project. I only watched small snippets of iCarly, never entire, and I don't think I ever watched Sam and Cat. But I mean, also it's worth noting that Dan Schneider's noted as the creator in this piece. It's clearly him. It is he is a.
It's called the director or creator.
The creator. He is a monstrosity, a buffoon, a creep.
Yeah, she described him as, like, on one end very, rewarding when you do the things he likes, but on the other end he's just nasty and controlling.
Yeah,
very, very similar.
She
I think
him.
in very similar to, I think she mentioned it was very similar to her mother, but except that obviously there were different dynamics. But
I mean, he would fire young kids for
the 6-year-old. Yeah, I heard about that.
But yeah, I would not. I don't know enough about Jennette McCurdy to go to the point that she's the greatest actor of our time. However,
let me rephrase that, because when I said that, I kind of wanted to reword a little bit about what I meant by that. As the greatest actress of all time, I'm not necessarily talking about TV roles and movie roles. I'm excluding that. I'm more just talking about having to put up an act throughout your entire life to just to act like you're somebody else for the benefit of somebody else, even if that benefit is toxic. I think that is what I meant by being an actress, by keeping an act up over time, not necessarily TV and movie roles specifically. I just wanted to.
Okay. Because I hated having to see what she had to go through. Some of the things were just like the fact that being 8 years old and having your mother wipe your backside, because if she didn't, you would feel guilty because it would upset her. That's no. The same thing with the shower.
The shower. That's what got me. The shower.
You shouldn't. By the time you're
16, 17,
I would say not even
far
that.
younger.
If you're
no, I'm just saying that's what she was.
Yeah,
by the time you're
how old
6
she
years
was,
old,
yeah.
you should be able to bathe yourself without your parents even looking. The only thing that they may do is put the bath water on or put the shower nozzle on and then walk out of the room. And at the most, you're in a robe, but not wash and not examine in private parts, but the words are so despicable that I have toward this mother.
And the manipulation that she did, she manipulated her to have her away.
Encourage the daughter to go on crash diets and become anorexic.
Because she wanted to stay a kid, and she's growing healthy as the way she's supposed to be. When there are doctors who was mentioned, anorexia and food disorders were mentioned when she was there.
Like she talks in the book about like how they used to convince the doctor she didn't have an eating disorder. There's like a section where she's talking about like how they would fool the doctor into thinking she was actually eating
she
a
would just
proper
straight up lie. It's like, I'll take care of it, but she doesn't.
Yeah.
But I have to disagree with all three of you in that I can't hate this character. And the reason I can't is because my personal life, I've seen so many similarities between this mother character and some of the things I used to do when I was younger. And Josh, you know very well what I'm talking about. But like, while ago, and this is like me opening up a little bit here. I used to be a very controlling person, and I tried to get things to be my way as well. And over the last 2 or 3 years, with some switches to medications and just different lifestyle changes, like I've worked really hard on trying to be more open and stuff. So I also, it was mentioned in the book that either both, possibly the mother and Jennette, may have obsessive compulsive disorder. I actually do have obsessive compulsive disorder, so I've had to like live through exactly what the mother had to live with, although I've had some extra help that she probably did not have. But it's just it's really hard for me to, I mean, yes, it's dislikable, but it's hard for me to say like you can just stop doing that and it would be all like,
I know what you went through. this mother was 100 times worse.
Yeah,
Right.
and I think
Well, that's because, like I said,
Like
I
the-
was getting a lot more help.
Like the scene
in general.
with her when the father, he just comes home late because he's working. He's trying to provide. If you're that desperate, go get a job yourself,
Or find
because
someone,
you're. I mean, I understand. I mean, she had cancer, but the way that when he came home and she just started, she was the one charging at him, and when he tries to push her back and she's struggling, she calls it abuse, and then kicks him out. Then she brings out a knife.
Yeah, that was
That. And the daughter, Jennette, had no idea what was going on. She thought her mother was always right, so she was cheering on the mother, even if it was just intuitive. But and she did the same thing with the biological father. She depicted him as being physically abusive, and that's why he
that
lost.
was Andrew, right?
Andrew, yes.
Who
They,
was mentioned later.
You shouldn't
Just
really get
things-
a relationship
it's
with him
just-
either.
It's not like that I don't think you've ever made it so you had to go into the bathroom with anybody, with a friend of yours, and insist on wiping their backside.
I think the key
Yeah.
difference
Yeah.
too is exactly like you said. Like you had help. Like
Yeah,
you
I've
were
had,
able
I've had
to
some kind of
be turned away
help
from
since
that
I was
path.
sick.
Yeah,
And that's
it's
why, like,
clear that Jennette McCurdy's mom had like severe mental health issues
Yeah, and it
that
just
went
went by.
undiagnosed.
But what I was also gonna say is that like I am 100% on board with you that I completely disliked everything she did. I thought it was wrong. I thought it was a bad choice. I thought that everything she did was just completely abhorrent. But knowing what I've went through, I know firsthand how hard it is to control that, especially like what Kaila just said about not having like help, or even in some cases growing up in an environment where you don't think you need help or don't want help. I think by writing this book, writing this story, writing all these events, it's like a giant, not just event, but also a way to get the feelings out that we're building up for the last
Yeah, she's
25, 30
processing
years.
it as she's
And I
writing
think
this book.
this without, I don't know if Jennette McCurdy mentioned anything about, I know I think at the end she may have
She
had
was
therapy,
going
I can't
through.
remember.
She was going through therapy before, and then they mentioned anorexia, and then she ran away.
Right.
And then she went back and got the help that she needed and control, and then her life started getting in order.
Mm-hmm.
She's in a better relationship than the other ones. The other ones were like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah, I think the way that she's written this book is very clear that she's done therapy and she's like done the work to at least start the process of healing from
and
the
she's
damage
still
her mother did.
she's still in
Yeah.
therapy, and it's
Yeah.
therapy positive.
She was with she was with Laura, but she left Laura because Laura tried to tell her the truth about her mother,
Right.
and that forcing them to be anorexic is abusive.
Yeah.
Jeff, it turned out better.
Yeah, Jeff was the one that I remember.
But
Yeah, I just, like, this is what happens when you are not just, like, this kind of, I'm not going to say it's negative or positive, I'm just going to use the term helicopter parent because I don't want to, be invalidating or anything, but as a helicopter parent, this can be what happens, where the child feels like they need to make sure you're happy all the time, to make sure that whoever you're with is validated, and just to make sure that you're doing everything right. It's hard when you're grown up with a helicopter parent to have your own identity. And I think that with this book and writing all the experiences out and the therapy as well, Jennette has definitely taken that step. I'm very proud of her, honestly.
I agree. Yeah, when I finished this book, I read this book last summer, and I read that book, and I felt like I felt such a connection to her because it's so vulnerably written and so like well voiced. But you do feel that end that story feeling immensely proud of what she's overcome and gone through. Like despite the fact that I've never met her, I most likely never ever will, and yet I somehow feel incredibly proud of her for overcoming what she has.
Yes. And she admitted a lot of things. Like, she didn't hold any, like, she held some things back because, like, at a certain point in your life you do hold things back. But I think for the story she wrote, like, not story, but what she wrote for now is perfect thing. She admitted that she was jealous of Ariana, and
She owns up to
she owns
her
up
own...
to her own negativeness, and she's shown in her writing in the book that she is doing the work to change.
The concern that I have, though, with regard to the Ariana Grande thing is that there really isn't a connection between the fact that she was jealous with Ariana to the fact that they made up. Because she does say that they made up, because she mentions that the last time, or at one point the last time she mentions her is at the end of the filming of Sam and Cat. And then they're listening to her music on the radio when she's coming, when she's leaving the airport, or when she's on her song plays on the radio, and it just suddenly happens. I thought that was a bit of a disconnect because you go from being jealous with someone to wanting to listen to and connect with a song of theirs without any explanation as to the fact that, well, we made up from what happened on Sunday.
I think part of that, though, just comes from, like, natural growth. Like, Jennette discovered a little bit during that time, like, what she wanted out of life, and that she had no real reason to be jealous of Ariana, because there was no, she didn't want what Ariana
I think
had.
it's like the process of identity searching. Like, this whole, not just what she wrote, but just the general journey. You can see it in the pages. And one other thing I really found that made this book cut deeper was the fact that you'll notice that every time something happens in the book, she uses all these really descriptive words to describe how she's feeling or what she feels about the situation, or how she feels whatever's going on is going on. And, like, they're not even, like, general words. They're very specific, and they go, like, she's very blunt when it comes to, and I think this being so blunt that it is with telling what emotion she's feeling and whether she likes something or not, I think, at least with the audiobook, it definitely... The way that H-U-H with the question mark is much larger and bolder in certain circumstances, like when she finds out that Mark is like
not
in the
her
actual
biological
print version of the book, it's bolded?
Yes.
Okay. I listened to the audiobook, so I
kind
didn't...
of like...
it's very,
perfect.
like, real.
It's huge.
It's kind of like this.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
okay.
I see what you mean.
It's kind of like this.
I think that makes it very, like, relatable. Like, it feels almost like you're being told this story from a friend, right? Because, like, how many times has something wild happened to you and you're like, huh?
Yeah.
And I do like, I liked Andrew, the way that she described him, because he never forgot about his biological children.
That was
following that.
That's incredible. Like, because, like, I should know, because I'm adopted, I highly doubt that my parents would recognize me. So it's great that you have, like, you remember those who move on.
I mean, even Mark was not, he was decent. I don't think he was perfect, but he was much better than her mother and her grandmother.
I seen an interview and nothing panned out with the biological father. They don't have a relationship.
Okay.
And I think it's on his end and more than hers.
I mean, he pretty much, I think a lot had to do with his, just how he went about his life, which is unfortunate. And it's tough once you're grown up and you're doing your own thing. But because they said that they met up at least once. I didn't see anything beyond the, so I'll take what you said for...
Came from her.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It was.
I saw her in words.
Okay. Yeah, I would take what you said for fact.
When I was listening about the part about her relationship with Miranda Cosgrove, I thought that was also a very interesting perspective, because she was talking about how she gets to, like, walk alone to the shop down the street or something, and she can buy all this stuff, and all I have is a fluffy journal and a stuffed animal. Like, I was listening to that, and I'm like it's clear from the way she's wording it that she's not, or I don't know if it was when she was writing her, that's how she felt at the time, but, like, definitely a lack of confidence in herself.
One thing that's interesting is she refers to her as Miranda, and as a reader, I mean, if you know enough about her and the work that she's done, you could know that it's Miranda Cosgrove. But somebody that's just approaching it, not knowing a lot about the subject, isn't going to know. I could see why.
Yeah, like I had to look up
But-
who Nathan was. I didn't know that
Yeah.
Freddie's character was Nathan Kress. I did not know that
Okay,
until I looked
yeah.
it up.
There's certain.
Okay.
Yeah.
I
mean,
was a big iCarly kid. I watched it start to finish. So,
Mhm.
like, reading this to me was, like, there was an element of kind of having, like, your childhood ruined a little bit because it did shed light on, like, what was going on behind the scenes. And I'm not saying that, like, oh, I want to take it back so that way I can keep iCarly. But it's interesting to see her view of, like, what was going on behind the scenes during that time.
Yeah, I watched a lot of Dan Schneider. Like,
Yeah.
Dan
Yeah.
Schneider's work was great. The people, like, the All That, the Amanda Show, Drake and Josh, I liked and there were things that they did on the shows that were just brilliant.
Yeah, I grew up with all that. And
However,
But not looking back on it.
it's just it's terrible what
What
the
he
people
did.
that were on there had to go through.
Yeah,
And it's
yeah.
especially, they're shedding more light with Quiet on Set.
Quiet on the Set, yeah, I was going to
Yeah.
mention
Yeah.
that.
Drake Bell has opened up about his experiences.
And it explains
Horrifying.
It explains a
Yeah.
whole lot about what's going on with what went on with him.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It explains a whole lot because I'm like trying to think of like something had to happen to him for him to act like that,
Yeah.
to be like that.
Yeah, his
Yeah.
mother was a terrible person. His father did his best to get him out of the circumstance, but his mother wouldn't. His mother overpowered Drake Bell. And then one of the things that really stuck out was when they gave Jennette McCurdy the call and said that they're offering you $300,000, and the first thing I thought was hush money. That's exactly
Yeah,
what I,
that's what it
Yeah.
was.
and
Yeah.
a few like
she didn't
just
take it. She
a
didn't
little
take it.
bit. No, she didn't. A few paid a little bit after. That's exactly what she said. It was hush money. That Josh Peck was one of them that admittedly took it.
Yeah.
And I
so
think that-
actually, Ariana Grande
Okay.
took it too. As far as
I
know.
think that
I
there's
mean, that
a
makes
few
sense
of them.
because
She's so
she
big now.
hasn't spoken out about it at all.
The other
She wants
Miranda
I'd like to know her
Kostrov
story.
may have even because
She
came,
also hasn't spoken out
she
about
came
it.
back to iCarly
Mm-hmm.
and because when they rebooted it, Jennette McCurdy said no,
Yeah.
but because and after that there's this shed of the fact that that's the last thing she mentions is, oh, say, are you coming back to iCarly? And Jennette she declined.
Yeah.
And so
And here's what I have to say. This work is so powerful that, again, like I said, I know a little bit about iCarly, but not a lot. People are going to usually remember Jennette McCurdy as an actress. I'm going to remember her as a writer because this was so strong.
I
And
hope
that's
she
how
writes
she-
more.
yeah, she would want
wants
you
to-
both
I would-
fiction and nonfiction.
I
She
would
wants to write
love,
more.
yeah. I from the beginning of the book where she wrote that thing that you were talking about, and like just in
Henry's-
general, yeah, that
something Henry.
about the Parent Trap thing, but just her as a writer is and yeah, I did watch some scenes after
Henry wrote.
or while I was reading the book, but after I was reading the book too. But like, she acts well, but her writing is
She has a voice.
oh my god.
Yeah, she has a
voice.
very good voice in
She
her
did
in
get
her
in the
writing
scene.
itself.
And sometimes it's just
Wow, yeah.
easier to get stuff out by writing than by
She wanted
you know.
her mom. She wanted to be the writer, so like, and
Mm.
and then she's like, okay, I'll act, mommy. Like,
She is damn
That's
good
what
at
she
it.
spent most of her life doing when her mother was alive, was trying to please her mother.
Yeah.
and
But-
this whole-
What I liked about this book is the chapters were very short and accessible. It was very easy to read. I think 7 to 8 pages was maybe the most a chapter ever was. There were times where it was only one.
I also like how each chapter was a pretty much different from the previous one. They weren't like extension. There was like one chapter, talk about this, and next chapter, talk
Yeah,
about this.
it's kind of like a
and,
complete story
Yeah.
contained within the chapter.
like when I was listening to the audiobook, they didn't tell us when the chapters changed.
yeah, they didn't.
So like I knew when a chapter changed because the wording was immediately different or it was
Yes.
taking place at a different time period. I didn't need to know the chapter titles in order to figure out. That's how good the
No.
writing is. Like I could
Yeah,
tell
I
exactly
agree.
when something new is
and
happening.
her because it came from her. She's telling you can hear her vulnerability.
Vulnerability.
Yeah.
Yes, you can
Yeah.
feel it in the audiobook. You can, because of her tone, and she's very good voice.
Yeah,
She
and
could do voice acting.
I specifically
If she
remember
ever
like
goes back to
one
I think she
point
did, actually.
down towards the back of the book, end of the book, her voice cracked. Like she was talking about something really emotional, and you could hear her voice like crack, and she paused because she couldn't get through what she was saying. So I think her reading the audiobook is an incredibly emotional, raw experience. It really adds to the
Alright.
depth
What
of
was
it.
it specifically?
I don't remember what scene it was. It was towards the end, and I think it was right around her mom dying. Like, right around when she was talking about, like, when her mom actually died. That she had to pause in her own reading of it.
I also read in an interview that she did that the scenes where she had to talk about, like, the shower and those kinds of things were, like, the hardest things for her to write.
Yeah.
To be open about.
You
And
can
I can understand
hear
it.
her kind of, like, decompartmentalize as she's reading those parts.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll tell you, this book is, you should read it. Like, it's a reason it was number one on the New York Times best. Was it New York Times? I can't
Yes,
remember.
for 8 weeks.
And I think counting? Or not quite?
It was number one for 8 weeks.
Yeah, 8 weeks,
It was. It may still be on some kind of
List.
bestseller list.
Mhm.
Maybe even like a paperback list, maybe, or something of that nature.
Yeah.
But
But this is powerful. It reminds me of me a little bit, but also reminds me of just how dangerous certain mental health conditions can be without the appropriate
Help.
assistance or the way to look at it. And I think that not to invalidate Jennette's story at all. Hers is very unique to herself, but I think that this is a book, an autobiography where it shows the consequences of what can happen if something is noticed but either ignored or not taken care of. And I think that Jennette McCurdy knocks this out of the park, like grand slam, left center field, moonshot out of the park.
I agree.
okay, then, do we have anything that we wanted to touch upon? Final thoughts or whatnot?
I just wanted to say that, like, Jennette, your story is wonderful, and it touched me, and it absolutely is worth the read. And I felt so much like connection. Whether I had OCD or not, it didn't matter. There's still connection in what Jennette is saying. It's like she's in a room with you, and she's talking. Audiobook or not, I feel like even reading it, like
it feels familiar.
It feels like someone is sitting down with you and just explaining everything that's difficult, that has been difficult in their life, and how they've kind of grown up being controlled and helicoptered and just feeling like they need to be someone and please someone, and then you're just finding out that they are finding their own identity. It's a wonderful thing to see someone recognize their identity for the first, well, not for the first time, but like in general, like they really get themselves, and it's truly a wonderful moment, and that's what you get from this book.
I have a question. If you came across Jennette McCurdy if you had, let's say, 30 seconds to a minute to tell her anything you want or engage in any kind of brief conversation, what would you say? We'll start with you, Ari.
I would say thank you for writing this. I would say I appreciate you sharing your feelings. I appreciate that, you have told us this story, and that you have alerted not just, yourself and me, but to all the people who have read your book about, like, what happened. And if you need anything, your fans of your work are out here, and we are all very proud of you. That's what I would say.
Kaila?
I think I would say that I was deeply sorry for the things that she had to go through to find out who she was. But that I am really proud of her for overcoming them. I think she's an amazing human being, and I think that is a testament to her and what she has been through.
Tara?
Thank you, and always keep fighting, and whatever she writes, come out of the arc.
Mine's a bit more I'd say, hi Jennette, how are you doing? You engaged in any new projects or hobbies or whatnot? And however I might respond with anything that she'd have to say, and then I would end with thank you, and however way she wants to take that.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's how
approach with the present, not the past.
Yeah, I would want to. That would be the direction I would want to take.
That's a good direction.
Mm-hmm.
Alrighty. Was there anything else anybody wanted to say before we went to ratings?
Oh, it's my second time reading it, and the first time I had a different experience, and then this time I had another experience, and what stood out to me more was how the more vulnerability that she had, and then the first time it was the first time that's how I realized how much I had a good mom, and how that I am very grateful that I did, and I was privileged to have the mom I did, and grew up the way I did, and I'm reminded all the time.
Mm-hmm. Alrighty then, how would we rate this? 0 to 5 stars, half stars permitted. Ari?
It's very rare that I would give a book a perfect score. I think if there's a type of book that I would give a perfect score to, it would probably be a biography or an autobiography for the most part. But this is so well written that I really cannot give it anything other than a 5-star rating. This is just, it's like I said before, it's like a conversation. You're listening to, it's like you're listening to someone, even if you're reading it or audiobook, it does not matter. This feels like a conversation. It feels like you are reading this book to listen and not to just read. And it's just how super blunt she is, how she is very straightforward, how she is very clear on what she likes and doesn't like, and just the experience. It's got to get a 5-star rating from me, and that's very rare for me. So that's a good sign for Jennette McCurdy and her writing. So 5 stars from me.
5 stars over here too. This was the best book I read of 2023, and I have thought about it daily since then.
Sarah?
4.75.
Quarter stars permitted.
I'll let this off the hook. Any elaboration?
Because I don't know. I think she could have, even though she was vulnerable, and I think she could have pushed this tiny bit, a little bit. That's it. I know she held back a few things, and if she's gonna go there, she should have just went there with everything else that she went.
I think that, especially with her age and like her situation, that might be a little bit easier said than done. But I'll just agree to disagree on that.
I'm gonna give it 4.5. And I think a lot is on the basis of certain things that she doesn't mention anything about her relationship with Andre Drummond. I mean, it doesn't really relate to...
She dated Andre Drummond?
Yeah, she did.
The basketball player.
Yep, she dated Andre Drummond for a period of time. I mean, she's talked about other people she was in relationships with. But
Yeah, there's that Lucas guy.
She doesn't mention it. Steven was the big one.
Steven, yeah.
And... I mean, in some instances, it was a bit sad to see what happened, but it wasn't meant to be. But I think that there were things that she should have connected, like the Ariana Grande and how they went from, how she went from being jealous and envious to being friends. At least just make mention of the fact, we cleared the air when she was listening to her song. I mean, she mentions it at the end, but she should have mentioned it the next moment she brought it up. But I had very strong feelings as I was reading this, and like you, I did feel that sense of connection, and I could really empathize with what it is that she was going through, and felt very bad for the fact that she had to go through what she did, but I'm very proud of the fact that she overcame this and became the person that she wants to be.
And now that it's written, now that it's said, Jennette focuses on the present and the future. Her new hobby as a writer, or as I think also she said something about directing and podcasting. It's your future, Jennette, and you do what you want with it. You're free now.
Alrighty then, if you are interested in picking up I'm Glad My Mom Died, here is my copy. I got this at a book swap from a silent book club. I was at the Monmouth chapter when I acquired this, and it was right when I knew we were going over this, so it was a great grab, and I definitely want to keep this and possibly read this again.
And it's very rare that I would suggest it, but the audiobook that's done by McCurdy, it's definitely worth it as well if you're looking for like a really strong connection or storytelling kind of angle. Would definitely recommend the audiobook for this.
It's the best way to read it, to be honest.
I mean, reading it is also good, but I think just the extra auditory connection is really...
better experience.
Yes.
Yeah, like the audio is a 5-star, just letting you know. There you go. It's totally 5-star.
I would say that would be for sure if my vision goes before my hearing. But be sure to join us next time on another episode of Literary Gladiators. For now, keep reading.
Keep reading.